In the late 90s, Star Wars fever had reached new peaks, with the original trilogy being re-released in theaters with bonus scenes, and the prequel trilogy on the horizon. Sega jumped at the opportunity to create a fully immersive 3D rail shooter that let fans relive the franchise's most iconic moments. What's up, Nerf herders, and welcome back to another episode of Arcade Economy, the series where we take a look at old arcade classics to determine just how much they cost to beat and how fair they were to our wallets. Last time on Arcade Economy, we entered Outworld to go up against Shao Kahn in Mortal Kombat 2. Today, we are traveling to a galaxy far, far away to join the rebels in Star Wars Trilogy Arcade. Was this game a fair test of your Jedi reflexes, or was the Galactic Empire designed to strike back at your bank account? Let's find out. Let's flash back to 1997. The Star Wars Special Editions hit theaters, bringing the original films back to the big screen and sparking a massive resurgence of Star Wars mania worldwide. Sega, who had previously released a Star Wars arcade game back in 1993, saw the perfect opportunity to capitalize on this renewed hype with something far more ambitious. Sega handed the reins to their AM Annex development division. The team was headed up by visionary director Kenji Sasaki, who was coming off of the success of directing Sega Rally Championship. Under Sasaki's leadership, the team set out to create a cinematic rail shooter that could faithfully replicate the blockbuster scale of the first three Star Wars movies. The decision was made to build the game on the Sega Model 3 arcade board. The Model 3 was capable of pushing a staggering amount of polygons and delivering smooth, high-resolution 3D environments that simply weren't possible on home consoles yet. And I mean, yeah, rightfully so. Just looking at this game today, and it still holds up incredibly well nearly 3 decades later. Star Wars Trilogy Arcade game received glowing reviews from critics, and while I have seen and played this many times in the wild, I have heard that it is a bit of a rarity, which, if true, is a real shame because this game is a fantastic arcade game. And if it's any indication of foreshadowing in this video, this game was one of the few arcade games that I beat regularly in my youth. By the time Star Wars Trilogy had hit arcades, the franchise already had its fair share of arcade games. Atari laid the foundation with the original Star Wars arcade back in 1983. This used colorful vector graphics to put players right into the Death Star trench run. I know this looks a little dated by today's standards, but back in the day this was top-notch stuff. Plus, the cockpit-shaped cabinet would go on to become iconic. This game was followed up by Return of the Jedi in 1984. Which switched things up with an isometric approach, and then The Empire Strikes Back in 1985, which returned to the wireframe vector style as an arcade conversion kit. Fast forward nearly a decade, and Sega secured the license, dropping Star Wars Arcade in 1993 on their Model 1 board.
Wipe out enemy fighters.
Now, you would think a 3D polygon Star Wars shooter would be a massive hit, but it wasn't. At least, not in the States. It saw a super limited release, with reportedly only about a dozen English cabinets ever making its way to the US. Despite being extremely rare in the wild, it did receive an exclusive home port as a launch title for the ill-fated Sega 32X.
Storm the Imperial Death Star and wipe out enemy fighters.
Then, after Star Wars Trilogy Arcade hit the scene in '98, Sega released Star Wars Racer Arcade in 2000 to capitalize on the Phantom Menace hype.
Looks like the young human boy, Anakin Skywalker.
And years later, Bandai Namco would get in on Star Wars Arcade action with 2014's massive Star Wars Battle Pod. This is often referenced as a remake of the original Star Wars Trilogy Arcade, since you play through the same piloting missions on Yavin, Hoth, Endor, and the Death Star finale. The game also added an extra mission, Vader's Revenge, where you get to play as Darth Vader after the Death Star's explosion from the first film. It's a game that looks incredible, and unfortunately, I have never had the opportunity to play it, but if I do see it in the wild, you bet your ass I'm spending money on it. The storyline from the game follows the narrative from the original trilogy of Star Wars movies, taking place in 4, or I guess technically 6, of the most iconic scenes. These include the Yavin 4 space fight, the ice planet Hoth, the forest moon of Endor, and the epic space battle conclusion above Endor. Sega released this game in 2 main variations, a standard upright cabinet and a massive deluxe sit-down model, the latter being the one that I am more familiar with. It featured a colossal 50-inch rear projection monitor and a 3-channel surround system with a subwoofer built right into the seat. Sitting down in this baby made it feel like you were strapping into a real X-Wing. Once players drop in their coin, they're tasked to choose one of 3 missions, each representing a Star Wars film. Each mission is split into 3 sections. You can play these in any order as you see fit. The game is a fairly straightforward on-rails shooter, meaning you mostly don't have control over your movements. Mostly. The game automatically guides you through the cinematic environments while you focus entirely on aiming your crosshair. You control the action by using the cabinet's analog flight stick. Pulling the main trigger will fire your shots. You can also hold this down to fire a continuous stream of lasers, but you will get rewarded more points by landing every shot. Now, while the core mechanics stay the same throughout, the game does split the action between piloting iconic vehicles and running and gunning on foot, and each handles just a little bit differently. Yavin's missions are solely set in the space dogfight from the ending of the first movie. The first section sees you taking out hordes of TIE fighters as you approach the Death Star. The second section sees you flying over the surface of the Death Star to take out turret guns and battle with Vader's TIE fighter. And the third and final section is the iconic trench run where you have to fire your proton torpedoes into the Death Star's ventilation shaft, resulting in its destruction. The Hoth mission changes up the gameplay a bit. Section 1 is more of the same from the first mission, except this time you're flying around in a snowspeeder, helping your allies take down AT-ATs and AT-STs. Section 2 sees the player enter Echo Base on foot to take out snowtroopers and Wampas. The third section is a dash for the Millennium Falcon through the Echo Base hangar. You'll have to take out more enemies here before coming face to face with a Wampa in the way. The best way to deal with him is to just unload on his head. Now, while I do find the Hoth level to be the easiest level, there's just something about this setting and aesthetic. The Imperial March playing, firing a blaster at stormtroopers, it just makes this level really satisfying to play. The first section of the Endor mission is the only level where you control some of your movement. This section kicks off on the speeder bikes, where you'll have to take out stormtroopers while weaving in and out of giant trees. Section 2 is another on-foot level as you make your way towards the shield generator. Section 3 is this level's boss fight. You'll come face to face with an AT-ST. Not really too much strategy here, just try to keep shooting and focus on the highlighted areas when they pop up. When playing the sections on foot, your blaster will have a temperature meter that can overheat if you're firing too rapidly. You'll also get a stacked bonus for each hit you land without missing a shot. So really, it's best to patiently line up your shots on these missions. For all missions, there's also an event button that lights up during certain points, and pressing this will cause allies to assist you in combat. What really sets this arcade cabinet apart is the bonus stages. After beating 2 missions, you'll ditch the blaster and ignite your lightsaber for an intense first-person duel against Boba Fett. You must follow the on-screen prompts to deflect his shots. Green arrowed prompts will cause you to deflect them back at him, dealing damage. If you're able to land all the green deflected shots, you'll successfully defeat him, sending him into the Sarlacc pit. After completing all 3 missions, you'll go toe-to-toe with Darth Vader himself.
Obi-Wan has taught you well.
This boss fight plays a little differently than the Boba Fett one. Red arrows will result in you blocking Vader's attacks, but this time green arrows must be done in an even swiping motion to deal damage to him. And when I say even, I mean this part of the game can get a little tricky. Moving the stick too fast won't register as you swing, and you'll miss your opportunity to do damage. Also, if you happen to have your lightsaber on that part of the screen already when the green arrow prompt appears, that won't register either. So you really need to be patient and wait for the prompt to appear in order to win this fight. Now, these fights are awesome, and they're a great addition to this game to break up the gameplay, but if I can be just a little bit nitpicky here, the one thing I dislike about this is that you do have to land every single one of those green counterattacks to win these fights. And if you miss just one of them, then you will be unsuccessful and you will lose. Something that I'm just a little bit nitpicky about, but I still think these fights are great. After the Darth Vader fight, you're taken to the final mission to blow up the reconstructed Death Star. Section 1 of this mission is another space dogfight as you make your approach. Section 2 is another flyover of the Death Star's surface, except this time you'll have to take out some of the construction that gets in your way, and the final section is a trip through the Death Star to its core where you must demolish all 4 parts of the main reactor. Be patient here and wait for the yellow circle in your crosshair to get smaller before shooting. If successful, you will be treated to a cinematic of the Death Star's final destruction. Now technically you can still beat the game without blowing up the Death Star in missions 1 and 4, and you don't need to beat the duels between Boba Fett and Darth Vader. You'll just take an L as the game kind of ends and rolls credits. But when I play the game and this happens, my completionist mindset really just gets bothered, and then I have to go through and play again, or at least I want to go through and play again. When I did play this game for this video, it did take me 4 playthroughs to beat Darth Vader, only because I was swiping too fast, much like I said before, and I wasn't getting registered hits on him. To me, Star Wars Trilogy Arcade is an exceptional game. It's a 10 out of 10 in its presentation alone, taking musical cues directly from the original trilogy of movies, and it really does feel like you're playing through those movies. It's a game that anytime I've seen it in the wild, I've forced myself to stop and play it. Yes, pun intended. And now it's time to find out how much I spent to beat Star Wars Trilogy Arcade. Now for these videos, I play these games on their default settings and set up a counter to increase every time that I need to continue. I also play these games on emulator, and while I usually use an arcade stick or light gun, for this game, instead I used my Thrustmaster flight stick, and yes, funny name aside, it worked flawlessly. Now this game defaults to 25-cent credits, but back in 1998, I remember playing this in the arcade, and at least in the arcade that I played in, it was not this cheap. I can't remember if it was 50 cents, it may actually have been $1, so we'll just go with all 3 in my statistics here. It only took me $1.25 or 5 credits to beat this game on 25-cent playthroughs, and that's seriously low. When we're looking at 50-cent credits, that's $2.50, and at $1, that would be $5. Now, even though this game released in Japan in 1998, it released in North America in 1999, so we're going to look at that year for the inflationary cost. So $1.25 in 1999 would feel like spending $2.53 today. $2.50 in 1999 would feel like spending $5.06 today, and $5 in 1999 would feel like spending $10.13. Now this is a pretty short game. It only took me 25 minutes to beat, which at quarter plays would only factor out to 5 cents per minute, at 50-cent plays factors out to 10 cents per minute, and at $1 factors out to 20 cents per minute. Now here's usually where I take a look at the bosses, but since you can't really die on the duel fights, at least I don't think you can, we'll just look at how many credits I spent per mission. That factors out to 2 credits on the Yavin 4 mission, 0 credits on Hoth, 0 credits on the Forest Moon of Endor, and 3 credits on the final battle at the reconstructed Death Star. And now it's time to bust out the predatory game scale to determine just how predatory Star Wars Trilogy Arcade was in stealing your money. This game is awesome and extremely fair. The cost is really low, and the production value and fun factor are really high. It's very, very easy to beat. Like I said, I beat this a ton of times when I was in my younger years at the arcade, and I actually think this game's replay value is more to go back to 100% each level and killing every enemy rather than just beating the game. There really is no learning curve in this game, and like I said before, the only thing I really don't like is that you have to hit every hit in the duels, and if you don't parry those green arrowed attacks, then you do not win the duel. And I do think when you're playing against Vader, having to be smooth, not fast, can be a little confusing, especially if you're playing for the first time. But this feels much more like a nitpick rather than a criticism. This game is great. I'm gonna do it, guys. Star Wars Trilogy Arcade gets the ultimate best score of a 1 out of 10 on the predatory game scale. Do you agree or disagree with my rating? Sound off in the comments below and I will do my best to reply. Now, can you play this game today? Nope, not unless you emulate it or find it in the wild. This game has never been ported, and sadly, I don't think it ever will be. Next time on Arcade Economy, we are playing through Data East's 1988 run and gun, RoboCop. So be sure to check back for that one. Hey guys, this video was a lot of fun to do. I really do love this game, and I enjoyed making this video. I am going through some really bad allergies at the moment, so apologies if I sound super nasally on this video. It was kind of hard to record because I just can't breathe through my nose right now. Anyway, we got it done. A big shout out to our Patreon producers for supporting the show. You guys mean so much to the channel, mean so much to me. Thank you for your support. That is Jake Weed, Tanner Trezza, Pezmage, John Forhan, Smash Jackson, and Gregory Hines. Thank you guys for your support. If you would like to support the channel or Arcade Economy, please consider becoming a YouTube member or a patron on Patreon. You'll get access to all director's cuts of Arcade Economy, which features extra footage, plus all videos early and ad-free, and an extra video every month. Hey, if you've ever seen this game in the wild, if you used to play this game, if you have a fond memory of it, please feel free to comment below. I love seeing everyone's stories of how they used to interact in arcades back in the day, or listening to their arcade stories that they have. And I always try to do my best to jump into the comments section to keep the conversation going down there. So that'll do it for me. Thank you guys for joining me today. If you guys like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't already, and hopefully you'll see me on my next video. Thanks for watching, guys.